3 years ago, I built a perfect plan to move house. Spreadsheets, weighted criteria, a decision matrix, all the tools I'd spent a 20-year career perfecting deployed against one big decision: where to live. I'm obsessed with frameworks, so this should have worked. So then how did we end up here?
Ludenscheid, the disaster capital of Germany. So look, it's 2021, it's the end of the pandemic. The rental market in Germany is really tough. And my wife and I were living in the Netherlands at the time. We find out after 13 cycles and 5 years of treatment for fertility that we are pregnant. It's kind of amazing. It is against all odds. It blows our mind, but we know immediately that we have to move. She is German, she works in Germany, her family is German, and frankly, the care for parents and babies and the support that you get in Germany is so much better than the Netherlands. But choosing where to live kind of felt impossible. Are we going to go for the buzz of Berlin? Are we going to go for like Bavaria's kind of beauty? Are we going to go for the bucolic quiet of the Black Forest? Am I going to stop alliterating anytime soon? Time was against us, and so of course what I did, I reached for the spreadsheet, and well, what we ended up with was a really tight shortlist of locations. These were, I'm looking at them here, well, we visited a bunch. We made the 5-hour round trip from the Netherlands to go and see them. And that's tricky because you don't really get a feel for the place. And while the locations kind of matched up, we kept seeing houses that they just weren't really for us, until we found this place. This place was something different. This place, we just fell in love with straight away. When we saw it, we just knew that we basically had to take it. We had fallen in love, and so we just went for it. We had a little look around town, but we were just like, we're gonna take that house. Area checks out, house checks out, let's go for it. And really importantly, in the grand scheme of things, it was really cheap. And now we know why. Look, contrary to what it might look or sound like, I'm not actually stupid. I did a lot of research before we came here. We really checked this stuff out. But I defy anyone to predict what happened next.
I don't think anyone could have predicted what came next. The day after we signed the contract, literally, the government shut down one of the huge motorway bridges near us, diverting tens of thousands of trucks through our town every day. An hour trip to work for my wife sometimes now took 2 hours. Cycling became really dangerous. We put our bikes in the garage and driving into town was a nightmare. All our favourite shops closed down within a month of us joining. Fine, we said, we can get the train. Well, the floods that came that spring washed the railway into the river, so yep, no trains. And then came the bark beetles. 3 dry summers attracted the beetles, and we lost 60% of the spruce forest, according to a local forester. Our beautiful surroundings were devastated. We brought our newborn home after 3 days in the hospital.
And I'm not sure you're going to believe me at this stage, but it doesn't stop there. We brought home our newborn baby in 37-degree heat. We came home, there was an ant invasion in the kitchen, and that night, 4 water pipes in the house burst simultaneously, flooding the whole of the corridor outside. Not only that, but just behind you, the lovely plot of land that our garden overlooked had been turned into a building development site for a block of flats, for 12 luxury flats. It was so noisy that we couldn't open the windows for that whole summer in like 30+ degree heat with a newborn baby. You know, when I'm telling people I live in Ludenscheid, they have one question for me: why? And that's when I get to tell them about the unexpected beauty of living somewhere like this. Because for all of its faults, for all the challenges that we've faced, there've been remarkable things happen to us that we have loved since we've been here. We've found really unexpected happiness. I mean, just take a look at these woods. They're amazing. The weather's not great today, but there's so much beauty here. We have pine martens and wild boar and raccoons and even wolves a couple of valleys over. There are amazing swimming lakes that we can just go to any time that we like. We found trail running, we found gravel biking, there's an open air cinema in town, there's food truck festivals in the summer, so many nice people. And more importantly than all of that, my little boy, who's now 3, has settled here beautifully. He's got a lovely kindergarten, and we could not have predicted, could not have imagined what an amazing place this would be to raise a small child. I genuinely believe no one could have predicted this. Not the good, not the bad. There's no framework that could have helped here. And I think that's what this video is really about. Humans, well, we love to try and control the future, and we use frameworks to do it. Despite the fact that all the evidence tells us they don't really work. They don't help us see into the future. So why do we still use them? Why do we still rely on them so much?
Okay, here comes some quick science. Look, our brains love frameworks, even when they're not helping us. And there are a number of reasons why. The biggest is the illusion of control. Frameworks give us the feeling of control, even when we have none. And we like that. I like that. There's also the cognitive load theory that we turn to mental models because they simplify complexity and reduce mental strain. We're all suffering from decision fatigue, especially in our always-on world. We're overloaded by decisions of what to watch or eat or do. There's too much choice, and the natural response to that is procrastination. Frameworks are a nice way of staying busy without actually deciding anything. It's ultimately emotional avoidance. And I guess for someone like me, a curious person who kind of refuses to pick one path, they're like little puzzles that I can tinker with endlessly. I can change the variable and I can get different results. But ultimately, this only takes us so far, because at some point we have to stop and realize that the real driver behind why we turn to frameworks and mental models is not better decision making, but fear.
That's right, fear. Fear of choosing, fear of regret, fear of finality, fear of moving to the wrong place. But the reality is you cannot know. Maybe the Autobahn is going to collapse. Maybe the train lines will get washed into the river. Maybe you'll get eaten by wolves or bark beetles. You cannot know. I realise this just now sounds like an advert for house insurance, doesn't it? Good job I bought house insurance.
But one thing I do know is that an over-reliance on frameworks to control the uncontrollable only makes this worse. There's actually a term for this, the paradox of limitation. Oliver Berkman talks about it in 4,000 Weeks. The more that you try to control every variable, the more trapped you feel, because life, by design, is uncontrollable. It's unpredictable. So if more control isn't the way to go, then what is? The move to Ludenscheid taught me that no decision protects you from chaos. Things will go wrong, things will go right, and most of it you won't see coming. So you really have no choice but to let go. Now that doesn't mean relinquishing control completely, but for instance, we're going to do two things differently as we look for our next place to live. Firstly, we've been more intentional this time about defining what matters most. Using what we've learned from the last few years, we built a simple criteria list. We're using our experience to simplify the decision space, but without falling into the false security of mega complex weighted scoring systems. Secondly, we've been visiting places like humans, not researchers. This time we're just going. We're kind of wandering around, getting coffee, chatting to people, trying to be present rather than keeping a tally of scores in our heads. Now, this might seem really obvious to you, but I have the kind of personality that really resists this. And don't get me wrong, I still have a spreadsheet, and I think frameworks offer a valuable process.
I still think spreadsheets are a really, really valuable part of a decision-making process. I've got a framework right now on my desktop that will help us decide where to move. It's just that the outputs of this are not as important as the process, the creating space for the decision, the placeholder for the conversation, to have a chat with your partner or your family or your colleague about that massive big decision. That's the really, really important part. So I guess that's just me. I am still in some way addicted to frameworks. I still love to take apart problems and then put them back together again. But there's a real difference between me now and me 3 years ago. This time, I know that the spreadsheet is not going to save me. I've got to become more comfortable with ambiguity, more comfortable with not knowing what that future is. And I've got to trust that I will just figure the rest out. It's basically a bit like parenthood, really, isn't it? Thanks for watching, thanks for being here, like and subscribe. And yeah, if you know any pretty little German towns with good rail connections and no bark beetles, just let me know.